So today we are joined by international champion Fedecampo right here, who has just won the global challenge. How are you doing today?
Pretty fine, thank you. And I just figured out I won the GC after like more than 1 day of waiting because for some reason the standings were not coming out. But yeah,
Yeah.
feeling great. Also about the very unique mon I used on that team.
Yes, Ariados right here. So I'm super stoked for this because like a few weeks ago I did this like anti-meta video and I covered Ariados as like a Sneasler counter, and obviously like I kind of called it a shitmon at that time, but also I covered it as like as a potential option. So it's really cool that I wasn't crazy. So what was the idea behind Ariados? I'm guessing Sneasler, but like something else as well?
Yeah, so like the weird thing is that originally the idea was obviously Sneasler, but then it ended up pretty much never coming into Sneasler, and I used it for other matchups. The
Oh.
idea was basically that I was feeling pretty confident about the main five core of Sylveon, Aerodactyl, Garchomp, Charizard, and Basculegion. And I
Mhm.
was in general really confident that Sylveon in Sun would have been a really good call. But I felt like the main issues of Sylveon is that if well positioned, it's doing incredibly well into most of the meta, but it's
Mhm.
just hard to get that good position. So like it needs speed control, it needs damage reduction or redirection. It needs something that it's able to defend it well because it's kind of slow. It does not have a really good physical defense, and most of the meta game it's physical, and it also gets one hit KO'd by Sneasler Dire Claw. So
Mhm.
basically, I felt like I needed to create a really strong support around Sylveon to make it work fine. And obviously, the Aerodactyl is the main option here. So with the Aerodactyl, you are getting obviously Tailwind to outspeed the Sneasler, Dual Wing Beak to KO the Sneasler, but not in all the matchups the Aerodactyl is bringable. And also, one other thing is that basically, I felt like the redirection would have been a decent tool to defend Sylveon from attacks, regardless of playing against Sneasler or not. And even if, firstly, the idea was basically that I have a core of 5 strong Pokemon, so I can use a niche slot that I bring in a lower amount of games just to patch some matchups.
Mhm.
But obviously, the idea was basically that if I need to redirect Sneasler, I will bring it. In the end, it ended up being a very strong patch for the Sableye Rain matchup, or the Rain matchup in general, because
Oh.
the thing against Rain is that it's kind of hard to lead with Charizard, especially against this one I mentioned with Sableye, because they will always be able to easily win the Weather War by just using Prankster Rain Dance.
Yeah.
And I was always struggling into the Sableye Basculegion lead with whatever I could do with the team. Also, because if the Basculegion is a Swiss Swim, Mystic Water, like I faced some of them in the GC,
Mhm.
I have nothing that can outspeed the Basculegion with them pressing basically Rain Dance, Wave Crash. And this is a one hit KO into pretty much my whole team. So I needed a check for this. And Ariados was crazy good because I have had at least 3 or 4 games that went exactly that way. They went Basculegion, Basculegion and Sableye in the lead. I went Sylveon and Ariados, and I always went for Protect and knock off into the Basculegion. And even if this technically will instantly lose to them, Wave crashing into Ariados instead of Sylveon, is like, who is ever gonna Wave crash Ariados and not Sylveon? Like, Sylveon has an Hyper Voice who could almost 1 hit KO the whole team, or 2 hit
Mhm.
KO at least the whole team. While this silly spider, what the fuck is he doing here? So, like, obviously, the GC was also close team sheet, so this helped. But basically, Protect knockoff into Rage Powder Iver Voice won me every single game against this matchup with this lead. So obviously, if they lead Sableye Archaldon is even better because Archaldon will need around 2 or 3 turns to get rid of Ariados. So I will just be spamming Rage Powder Iver Voice like an NPCM, just kill the whole team.
That is wild. I mean, you mentioned like Ariados then being better in closed team sheet because like you cannot do that knockoff trick quite as often in open team sheet. So I saw that this very similar team you ran in Victory Road together with I guess all of Italy, uh, but then with
Most
an
of it, yeah.
Aegis, yeah, with an Aegis slash on the Ariados. So I guess like Aegis slash is also good into Sneasler, so they kind of do the same role. But I guess in that team they're not completely fulfilling the same role since you can't really protect the Sylveon as easily then.
Yeah, the idea behind the Aegislash is that it would basically protect the Sylveon in a different way. Obviously, it's not a direct protection like the Rage Powder, but
Mhm.
obviously playing the single strongest wall against Nizzler of the format helps against Nizzler, and it's also still helpful in the matchup against Sableye Rain. It's just it's funny to say, not as good as Ariados, but it's still pretty solid for that matchup because obviously Poltergeist, it's able to one-hit KO Basque Legion and do crazy strong damages to the Sableye, and Shadow Sneak with Spell Tag does around 70-80% to Basque Legion, so it can still patch the fact that I do not have anything to outspeed Swift Swim Basque Legion in rain, and it's still strong against these there. So I feel like this slot role, it's always the kind of things. One other slot that I have been considered but not playing at all in any tournament was Farigiraf because of having Trick Room for Sylveon with both Tailwind and Trick Room Speed Controls being available on the team, and Psychic to one-hit KO Sneasler. So for Sneasler and the Speed Control, it would have been great, but against Rain, it would have done nothing. So my matchup into Sableye Rain would have been Has without neither Sableye or neither Ariados or Aegislash. So that's why I gave up on Farigiraf. But I feel like this slot role gotta be that. So something that is able to give Sylveon support by either being extremely strong into what the hardest matchups are for Sylveon, like Aegislash do, or just direct support with the speed control, because it also adds string shot. I didn't mention that because it's a move that I did not press a lot, but some matches were saved by Ariados pressing string shot, which is basically an extra tailwind. And many people asked, why do you use string shot instead of toxic thread, which is basically the signature move of Ariados, which does same effect as string shot, -2 speed on the target with also poisoning. And basically it's because toxic thread only hits one target, while string shot it's spread like an icy wind. So that's why I picked up string shot instead of Ariados' signature move. But yeah, it was always good as a support, basically. And also, Insomnia makes it pretty consistent against Nizzler because there is no way it can rob you with Dark Claw Slip. And the only thing that I was a little sad about is that it would have been a crazy strong redirector into grass types, because like Ariados completely walls every grass type in the format, but unfortunately Rage Powder does not redirect grass type, so that was the only weak point. Many times against the stuff like Mega Venusaur teams, I couldn't use it, even if it could technically completely wall that Mega.
Right. If maybe you should give it follow me very soon.
Yeah, please give Ariados follow me.
So if you were to like play this in a tournament tomorrow, or someone wants to pick this up, like what do you think are like the most common modes? Because obviously like the matchups I feel in Reg MA right now are very spread out. It's not like we have one clear Sun team anymore or one clear Rock team. It's mostly like a combination of all the good mons. So what, I guess it's like better to just talk about modes. So what are like the most common modes?
So both in Victory Road and in the Global Challenge, the lead that I have done the most, and it's not even close, it's Aerodactyl and Sylveon. And this lead is just extremely broken. If the opponent cannot lead anything that instantly one-hit KO Sylveon, putting Sylveon with Tailwind is extremely oppressive, and sometimes I could even just press Rock Slide, Ivor Voice, just really consistent spread damage, have chances to get good percents with Rock Slide, really consistent speed control, Dual Wimmy disables to one-hit KO Sneasler, so that lead felt broken, and it's by far the one I spam the most. And this team has Mega Aerodactyl and Mega Charizard Y. I would say that I have brought Mega Aerodactyl much more than Mega Charizard. Like, I will say I have Mega Aerodactyl at least like 70% of the games, but Aerodactyl is still a very good Pokemon without the Mega. So you could easily bring Charizard with Aerodactyl by just not Mega Evolving Aerodactyl and Mega Evolving Charizard. But you will most likely never do the opposite. So basically, when you know that your matchup requires to Mega Evolve the Charizard, surely you will never Mega Evolve the Aerodactyl, but you could still bring it for some other functions. And for example, a thing that I did against that Sableye Rain team is bringing Aerodactyl so that I could prevent Sableye from eating the Rosely Berry thanks to a nerve, while still using Charizard as my Mega Evolution. And some games, like really cool. Very few games, I think it's like 2 games at all, considering both Victory Road and Global Challenge, I have been Mega Evolving Aerodactyl despite having Charizard in the bag, because the early turns did not develop as I expected, and I ended up being forced to do that. And this ended up winning me those games. So even if it's bad and you are not supposed to do it, just do not feel like you are forcing yourself already from the team preview about what you should Mega Evolve, because things might change during the games. But most likely, you should try to have optimized game plans about what Mega you are going to use when you choose your 4. And the Focus Sash Basque Legion, it's one of the most broken late game cleanuppers. So obviously, the Focus Sash Basque Legion has been my last one in the bag in most of the games I played, regardless of which one was the lead. Sometimes I've done Sylveon Ariados to just spam Rage Powder. Hyper Voice, as I mentioned, is used to be the lead against most of the Rain teams. And Charizard used to be in the back many times, but sometimes for the same reason as Rock Slide, Hyper Voice, having a very consistent spread move spam is very strong. So when the matchup allowed me to do it, I even considered to lead just Zarb, Sylveon, and go for Heat Wave Hyper Voice sometimes.
Oh
And
yeah.
obviously the Aerodactyl and Garchomp is a very strong lead just because of Rock Slide, Earthquake, Tailwind, Earthquake, these kind of things. I feel like this team is very flexible regarding the amount of different leads you can do. So I could talk a little bit about which leads I almost never did just to exclude
Sure.
them. And I think I pretty much never lead Ariados without something that is not Sylveon. Like Ariados was usually like in the lead with Sylveon or not brought at all. I brought
Mhm.
it in the back in some games to have late game support for Sylveon, but in general, which is also the reason that made me put the Ariados on the team. Ariados' role is support the Sylveon, so it's very unlikely that you will be doing something with Ariados that is not supporting Sylveon, basically. And one other lead that I have almost never done is Bass Collision plus anything. Basically, as I mentioned before, the strong thing about the Sash Bass Collision is being a very strong late game cleanupper. So most of the times it's suboptimal to lead with Bass Collision. It's almost always better in the back. I still had a little few games where I have leaded with it. It's still a decent lead mon, but it's like 9 times out of 10 it will be better to have it in the back.
Yeah,
And
it's like the Urshifu sash thing, right? Where you just like in the end they have to like nuke it twice, and otherwise they're losing like 2 months to last respects.
yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much why. And other leads that I mentioned I have done, but as I mentioned, the leads that I have done the most so far were just Sylveon Aerodactyl, Sylveon Ariados, or Aerodactyl and Garchomp. These were by far the three most spammed leads. I have not leaded Aerodactyl and Charizard too much times. It happened a few times, but I do not like this lead too much because basically, unless the opponent has like a team that is completely free food for Charizard, it's usually better to not lead your two megas together because basically one other thing about having the double mega is that if I lead Aerodactyl plus something that is not Charizard, my opponent also has the doubt about will I Mega Evolve my Aerodactyl or do I have my Charizard in the back and I will keep the Mega for it? Then
Hmm.
having the double Mega lead basically removes this mind game, which I think it's great to have it because it's not one of the classic randomic mind games. It's only a mind game for your opponent because you already know what you have in the back. You 100% know what you will plan to do, but the opponent has to consider stuff that not necessarily are what you're gonna do. So this is why I do not like Zard Aerodactyl too much. I feel like I have done it just a few times where I felt like my matchup was so easy and this lead was so good that I do not care about this at all. Like just lead this because these are the strongest guys I could lead and just press damages and win. But yeah, surely this is a lead I've not done a lot. And also, even if I mentioned that I have done it a lot, I've done it a few times. The Charizard plus Sylveon lead, it's something that I have not been able to spam too much. It's another lead that if the matchup allows to do it, is extremely broken because you just spam E-Wave Hyper Voice and you blow up everything. There is literally no coverage for Fire Fairy besides Fire type itself. But the
It's
strong
basically
thing
the
about
big
Fire
six
Fairy
thing.
being strong is that we get Basque Legion, Aerodactyl, and Garchomp. So this team is extremely well covered from fire types. And basically, there are not a lot of matchups that a lot of teams that are bad enough to just get easily swept by Heat Wave Hyper Voice without thinking. That's pretty much why. So sometimes I've done this lead more to just put pressure and make maybe a bait, like protect, swap out something, these kind of things. But I have not been able to sweep consistently with just Heat Wave Hyper Voice because most of the teams have options to not lose to that.
Yeah, of course. Like again, like I just mentioned, it's kind of like Big Six with Groudon, right? Like you have the fire, ground, fairy stuff, and your Garchomp, Charizard, Sylveon kind of do that as well. Of course, a bit weaker than Xerneas.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I do want to talk about the Sylveon a little bit because like obviously Floette has been like the talk of the town for a long while ever since Champions dropped. But this Sylveon is kind of like a Floette that doesn't need to Mega. Have you felt like you're running a quote unquote weaker Floette, or do you feel like actually I can utilize my opponent's fairy aura so this Sylveon is even better, perhaps even in a mirror or something like
Yeah,
that?
so like Against other Floettes, Sylveon always felt much better than Floette itself because in the
Mm,
mirrors it's just better. If you manage to position it fine, the opponent will either have to not Mega Evolve, or if they Mega Evolve, your damages will go crazy because you got Pixelate, Fairy Feather, Fairy Aura. It has so much multipliers that it's just much stronger than any other thing. I think it's probably the given champions does not have Terra, does not have stuff like Chiyu or this broken stuff from SV, does not have choice packs. I feel like Sylveon with Fairy Aura is probably the thing with the highest amount of multipliers you can get in this game at all.
mhm.
And the damages it does in the mirrors against other Flood just feels unfair. And about it in general, the main reason why it felt good is that Ragav won the tournament, the 6K people tournament,
Yeah.
by playing Floette and Zard. And in general, Floette and Zard has been one of the most common megas pair since the start of Pokemon Champions. And obviously,
Mhm.
they are probably the two single strongest megas in the game. But the thing is that Fire and Fairy have a perfect coverage together. But it's not only about when Floette is bad, I can bring Zard and the opposite. It's also about having them on the field together. Like having the fire and the fairy type together on the field is extremely good. As you mentioned before, Mizar Sylveon, Xerneas Groudon, Fluttermane Chiyu. Basically, Fire Fairy is one of the strongest offensive pairs you can have at all. And I
Mhm.
didn't like the fact that Zarfloet doesn't allow you to have them on the field at the same time because they are both two megas that make like they are completely shit if they do not mega evolve. So basically, you always need to make a choice about who you're bringing. Besides very specific scenarios, which is also a difference that I liked with my team having Aerodactyl being able to be brought consistently regardless of mega evolving or not.
Mhm.
I like that combined with how good Sylveon is combined with Charizard, just the flexibility of non being a mega slot and how good he was against the other Floettes. I think I have almost never lost, or maybe I have never lost a single game to a Floette with this team.
That's
And
wild.
most of the Floette teams I have lost to were just not bringing Floette and bringing the other megas, and whoever brought Floette just lost.
I see. Yeah, I mean that makes sense though. Like your Charizard walls it, your Sylveon abuses it. Like Garchomp Choice Scarf is fast. Like you could even Rock Slide it, I guess. Your Ariados walls it. You don't have to bring Garchomp probably. Like there's a lot of things against Floette in this team. Even though they're like not direct hard counters necessarily. So I guess the final question then would be: is there like a particular matchup that you find hard for this team, or do you feel it's very well rounded?
So I lost to Wolf with Parrish, but
Mm-hmm.
in general, Parrish did not feel like a matchup I would like to play into. Basically, the classic Politoed Gengar Incineroar strategy. In general,
Mm-hmm.
it's very funny to say, but this team is really weak to Incineroar. Like one of the main reasons why this team managed to perform well both in Victory Road and in the Global Challenge is that Incineroar kind of fell off. Like the usage of Incineroar fell off a lot after the latest tournaments. His performances and results were really bad compared to how good we are used Incineroar to be.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Incineroar is annoying to face because we do not have many strong things that can eat Ensign for super effective. It stays really well in front of both Zard and Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl, after one Intimidate, it's not an actual threat for Ensign. So very bulky Ensign feels annoying. And the Ensign from Parrish has usually full bulk spreads, no speed, no attack, Sinistra that can heal, protect. So Parrish felt very annoying. But I actually only lost to Wolf playing it. I beat all the other guys. And even against Wolf, the match was really close. So I feel like obviously I lost to Wolf because it's really good and not because the matchup it was impossible. But surely I was not happy about playing against Parrish and about playing against Incineroar in general is something that I felt bad about. It's very funny to say. I honestly feel like this team popped off so hard in the last weekend, and I expect Incineroar usage to get way up again. Very,
Yeah.
very up, like at least 10-15% more than last weekend, because Incineroar is very good into my team. And but yeah, it's funny to say. Basically, Incineroar, it's the hardest one to play against. And also, Parrish in general is not really great. And my top cut from VR was lost against Sand with Scovillin, which also ended up winning the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, Excadrill is a mon I'm not happy to play against. I had one game in the VR top 8 that I should have got a really good positioning because I had Protect and Rock Tomb into the Protect with Charizard that did not Mega Evolve yet, and Rock Tomb into the Exorlead breaking the Sash, so that after Mega Evolving I can outspeed Exorlead, removing the Sand and kill it because the Sash was broken from Rock Tomb. But I lost that on the spot because my Rock Tomb did not happen because of a Rock Slide flinch. But basically Exorlead is extremely annoying because of that. It gets to outspeed and 1-hit KO Mega Aerodactyl, and it's pretty much the only Pokemon in the whole format that gets to do it. It gets to health speed and almost 1-hit KO Charizard with Rock Slide, and same thing for pretty much the whole team, while also having a really good chance of flinching with Rock Slide. And none of the 6 slot I have used or considered will make this matchup better. Like, Aegis Lash is ass into Extra Deal, Ariados does nothing, Farigiraf will do nothing. So, Sand with the right supports to Extra Deal, it's surely one of the Ariados matchups.
I see. Okay. Well, that still seems pretty like fine. Maybe an Incin coverage needs to be figured out, but Beyond the Team looks like really incredible.
I feel like none of these matchups I mentioned felt unwinnable because I lost to Wolf just because he played a little bit better than me. I lost to Julio in top 8 because he was extremely lucky with the Rock Slide flinches. He literally flinched every single Rock Slide. And Incineroar in general, I obviously mentioned that Incineroar was not too much played, but obviously I faced multiple Incins across my games and I have beat most of them consistently. So I would say most of the losses just came to great players playing well, having good matchups, and being lucky. So the teams felt extremely broken, to be honest. Like, it felt like surely now it will have a target on its back and maybe it gets worse. But during this last weekend where I played it, I did not feel many issues about it.
I see. Awesome. I mean, yeah, you won the GC, so obviously it had to be very well positioned. Thank you so much for like sharing all these details. Is there a specific thing you want to shout out? Like, I know you stream usually in Italian, like your channel. Anything else?
Yeah, if any of you guys would like to follow me on my channel, I'm also open to speak English during my stream. So all my channels are Fedecampo VGC whenever. And I would like to shout out Dubious from Lorenzo Antonioni, my friend who I worked mostly on the Aegis version with, while the Ariados version was more like an own idea I had. But yeah, surely shout out to him and to Justin, Mattia, all the Italian guys who played that team in VR, basically. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And I also want to mention, it's true that you sometimes speak English. I will sometimes go into the chat and go like, hey, I have a question, and then you answer in English. So you can definitely check that out, even if you're not necessarily Italian speaking. So yeah, go follow Fedecampo everywhere. Links will be in the description. Be sure to subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.
Bye.
It's funny how I say ciao and you say bye.
I was thinking of saying it in Italian, but after you said it in Italian, I thought it was funnier if I said it.
Yeah.